Hello, I'm Archie Luxury and welcome to the program. I'm in the fabulous Sherwood Arboretum. And this is blue liberal, very conservative, nice safe neighbourhood, heaps of people in employment, and just a great area to be. And today I want to have a bit of a talk about the fact that, do you judge a man by the watch he wears? And this is to all you watch aficionados there. And I want to pose the question, do you judge somebody by the wristwatch they wear? And this is an interesting topic. And just let me do my buttons up. We're going for a more upmarket audience, so I'll do the buttons up. And do you judge a man by the kind of watch he wears? We're asking fellow Weiss, that's wusses, W-I-S, watch idiot servants, this is watch aficionados, do you judge people by the watch they wear? And I gotta say, I've just started a new job in waste management, and one thing I noticed myself doing is, as I'm eyeing up somebody, I have a quick glance at their wrist to see what they are wearing, and it gives me little signs. So I just want to know, does anyone do a similar thing? And it's an interesting thing. We had a consultant who comes in. He works on the AES 400s, and he's a lovely guy, really nice guy, and I noticed he was wearing a white-faced Rolex Air King. It would have been a sapphire one, and I said to him, I said, gee, it's a beautiful watch. It's a beautiful watch. Smart casual attire. I said, wow, that's a beautiful Rolex. And it's sort of, it places him as a professional. He told me he got it for his 30th, and he's not a Weiss. He's not a true aficionado like old Archie, but, it was always very well done. And I showed him, naturally, the wristwatch I had on. I had the Patek annual calendar on. And he said, yeah, wow. So, he knows his stuff. And it's kind of, he looked at me as a flunky. And I think his expectations of me changed after he saw my annual calendar. He saw me as a professional. And I gotta say, when I worked at the big KBR, I saw a few people who wore watches, good watches, and I'd often say, that's a beautiful Breitling you've got on there, that's a beautiful Rolex. And if they were aficionados, it led into a conversation. And I remember one guy, I showed him, I said, wow, that's a nice, I said he was wearing a Breitling Chronomax, a nice Breitling. And then, he opened up a bit. He told me the story about how his father's Rolex was pinched. Terrible story. And I showed him my collection. I showed him my annual calendar. And his respect for me, I was always greeted with hello, Mr. Pluter, whenever I went past. And even though he had a higher position in the company, he looked up to me because I had the annual calendar. And he was a lovely guy, really lovely guy. And I got to ask this question. Do you judge someone by the wristwatch they wear? As watch enthusiasts, when you're gauging someone up, do you look at the wristwatch they wear? And it's funny, in this society, in Sydney, Sydney's a very, very, very status conscious city in Brisbane. Sorry, in Australia. It's the capital of New South Wales. I don't know what the fuck I was talking about Brisbane for. But everyone says, the first question, where do you live? Now, they don't ask you that as a politeness. They're trying to gauge up your social standing. If you say, I live at Rose Bay, I live at Vaucluse. It gauges where you are in the pecking order. And in Brisbane, I mean, it's always, everyone says, "Oh, what do you do for a quid?" They're not being polite. They're trying to gauge your position in society. And it's a really interesting thing. And I found this great posting on a watch forum, Watch Talk Forums. And it said, "Do you judge a man by the kind of watch he wears? I was watching a documentary about a poker player. There's a part in the movie that the bloke says, if I sat in a table and all the guys were wearing digital watches, I know I'm going to have an easy night." And it's an interesting thing. Do you gauge people by the watch they wear? And it's an interesting thing. You look at someone. How do you psych them up? And a few interesting comments were put on this posting. They said, "As a waiter in the luxury market, I learned a few things. People that act rich aren't rich. People that are all talk are never very much action. Always be open-minded." I would say that the guy wearing the Rolex probably got it without being super generous. And it's quite interesting. It's quite interesting. He worked in a restaurant in New York, but there is one that requires all the servers to have their own Mont Blanc pens for guests. And it's an interesting posting. Do you judge somebody by the watch? I mean, if you're employing staff, do you look at what type of watch he's wearing? And it kind of, you know, it is a... I mean, men can't really wear much jewelry. They can't wear much jewelry. And I'm just really curious to hear if you judge people by the wristwatch they wear. And it's a cool, really cool topic. And I just want to know what fellow watch enthusiasts do. Does a fine wristwatch... I mean, a fine wristwatch doesn't necessarily mean someone has money. Look at Archie Luxury. I mean, fuck! I got 2 Pateks. Some would say 1 too many. But I got 2 Pateks. I'm a very lower middle class guy. I've incurred some debt to finance this collection. I've made a lot of personal sacrifices. And... but it does show I have an appreciation for beautiful things. So I'd really like to hear from my audience. Do you judge people by the watch they wear? I'm Archie Luxury. Tell me what you think.